If we took our current world and shrunk it down to the size of just 100 people, only 4 of them would be Americans. 13 of them, though, would follow the religion of Hinduism. So how come 4 Americans? Well, we don't really seem to know that much about a group of people who follow a religion that's really more than 3 times our size. Let's talk about that. So welcome to another online edition of Ridgway History. My name is Mr. Ridgway, and I'm going to be taking you today through what are the basics of Hinduism, or getting into Hinduism, and what does it believe, who are its followers, where is it in the world, and lots of other really cool and interesting details. So we're going to be exploring not only what Hinduism is, but also some of the central beliefs of what that religion entails, and also some of the common practices. So 2 essential questions to guide you through this quick mini lesson. Number 1, what traits do religions have in common, really all over the world? And then number 2, how does religion influence society and vice versa? You're actually going to find that Hinduism has a really interesting relationship with the people in India that follow it, and the people in India that follow it also have, in turn, a very interesting relationship with Hinduism. It's a very complex religion, and there's a lot of things that can be discussed about it. What are the basics on Hinduism? Well, Hinduism is a unique religion in that there's actually no single founder. So whereas Christianity had Jesus, and Islam had Muhammad, and Judaism had Abraham, Hinduism does not have a single founder. The beliefs actually come from multiple groups of people, including one group of people that you may have heard of before called the Aryans. Now, these are not the Hitler Aryans of later times. These are actually a group of people that migrated down into India through what were called the Hindu Kush Mountains. And through what you will learn about called the Khyber Pass. And when they come through there, in not only the Aryans but multiple waves of people, these beliefs begin to kind of layer on top of one another, and that is what becomes Hinduism. There are many sacred texts in Hinduism, but one of the most important is called the Vedas, which is known by only a select few called Brahmin priests. You'll learn about them, and it's known only in Sanskrit, which is a very cool language. I will say, however, that really talking about Hinduism in 15 minutes is pretty darn impossible, because Hinduism is an extremely complex religion with thousands of gods and goddesses and lots of other really cool, interesting details that have happened over world history that really deserve more time and consideration than I can give here. So, Hinduism is a very interesting religion because it is both monotheistic and polytheistic at the same time. You're like, how the heck is that possible? Imagine, okay, that religion, whatever your religion could be, is a die, all right? Just like this dice I have right here. And so how Hinduism is both polytheistic and monotheistic is that there is one god, or one, I should say, entity in Hinduism, that is worshipped, okay? And not really worshipped necessarily, but is thought about, okay? And that is called Brahman. And it is a spiritual force that pervades everything. It's kind of like Avatar and Inwa, when Inwa is kind of like the spirit of, the world or Pandora that they're on. But there are, and why I bring up the dice, is if Brahman is this dice, there's many different faces of this die that can be worshipped that give credit or give belief to Brahman. And you'll see what I mean here by some different faces that people worship of Brahman that make Hinduism both polytheistic and monotheistic. Okay? And you've actually probably heard of Brahman before, but not by his real name, or her real name. Its real name, I suppose, is a better word. It's actually, if you ever heard somebody say Om, it's that symbol right down here. Om is the Hindu name, or the Hindi name for Brahman. Again, it's that spiritual force that pervades everything. Most people, okay, speaking of this dice, worship 3 main parts of Brahman. Okay, okay? And these are these guys. All right, so one of them, okay, is Brahma, the creator, which is easy to remember because Brahman is the main force, okay? Vishnu, the protector, and then Shiva, the destroyer. All right, most people worship these three main faces, not all, but most. So something to think about with any religion is how do you quote-unquote win? So, for example, in Catholic Christianity, you have the sacraments. In Islam, you have the 5 pillars, etc., etc. So in Hinduism, there's this very specific way that things kind of happen, okay? So let's talk about what's the goal. What's your end game in Hinduism? Your goal is to have your Atma, or your self-spirit, okay? So your personal self-spirit is going to achieve what's called moksha, or union with Brahman, which is again that overall world force that kind of pervades everything. Okay, so your little self-spirit, your Atma, is going to basically synchronize. You're gonna, sync like an iPhone into Brahman, and when that happens, okay, you basically get onto or off of the wheel of fate, which is good for you. So how you do it, okay, and how you get to that stage is you follow karma. And many people have actually probably heard of karma, but this is actually where that term comes from. It's that your actions have a future consequence, either good or bad. And so in Hinduism, if you follow karma, depending on whether it's good or bad, you're born at a higher or lower level of consciousness. So if you have good karma, you move towards higher and higher and higher and higher levels of consciousness, or like ability to critically, not necessarily ability to critically think, but you get higher and higher and closer to achieving moksha with Brahman, or unity with Brahman. Now, something really important with that is that when you are going, or when as you travel up the layers of higher levels of consciousness, is that this happens when you die. So if you've had good karma during your life, you get what's called reincarnated, or you die and then come back again in some version of your body or somebody else's body, and you are born with that higher, lower level of consciousness. So what happens oftentimes, or at least as we'll see here in Hinduism, is that your caste will also change, but then also it's a mental and it's like a mental-ish kind of physical change as well. So this is represented, if you did not know, if you ever see in Hinduism, by the wheel. So if you ever see wheels in Hindi areas, things, that's what that's represented by. How does India's caste system work? One of our essential questions was, how does religion have a conversation with society, or how does it impact society, and how does society impact a religion? So if you did not know, the Aryans that I mentioned before actually implemented in India the caste system, which you're going to see is really important here coming up with the Mughals. And the caste system, okay, has about 3 or 4 castes. Actually, there's thousands of castes that become really, really complicated. So what happens is that as you change your level of reincarnation, as it says over here on the left, that higher caste members are considered more spiritually pure, or they've moved up those levels of consciousness compared to lower castes. And so the idea is that with your level of karma, that your caste level changes. Okay, so let's say that you've had excellent karma your entire life, and you've just been awesome, your actions have been wonderful and good. You then will have a good chance, at least, of being reincarnated as what's called a Brahmin. So these are people who go and actually are priests and very, very high officials. And what they do is Brahmin priests are like your authorities on the Vedas, or that the sacred texts of, the Vedas, the series of sacred texts that are on Hinduism. Okay. Then you also have 2 or 3 different castes below. You have Kshatriyas, oh man, pronunciation, Vaisyas, and then Sudras. So you have rulers and warriors, traders and artisans, so merchants just below them, and then last but not least you have Sudras, which are laborers and servants. At the very bottom, and in fact they're not even considered to be in the caste system, are what are called Dalits, or outcasts, and outcasts are considered the lowest of the low, and again, they're even so low they're not even put on the caste system. Now, India today has officially banned not only certain parts of the caste system, but especially has taken action to make sure that this group, Dalits, is actually not discriminated against. However, it does still exist in a large part in Indian society today, and Dalits are what are called untouchables, meaning like that they are often the people at the lowest bottom of the social ladder. So grave diggers, street cleaners, they're really considered unclean. And even if you go back just a couple hundred years in world history, if a Dalit were to go and meet one of these other groups, or actually touch, even like physically touch a person from another class, there's actual like purification rituals that groups have to go through in order to make sure that they have not been corrupted by those groups underneath them. So it's something really, really interesting to see about, or seeing kind of interesting to think about. So what Hinduism does, as you can see, is it plays right into these caste levels, because it's your karma in life that determines what caste you're going to be. So again, just something to think about. With that said, Hinduism is an awesomely complex and really, really interesting religion. Even though I'm just giving you a snapshot here, I would encourage you that if this sounds cool and interesting, to go and check out more, because there's really so many cool resources out there on how this is like a wonderfully complex religion, and then also like what happens when like the British show up for the first time and encounter Hinduism. Some really interesting stuff out there that you can go and check out. So other than that, I will see you in the next video. Bye bye!